I want to tell you the story about the worst show that I ever did. None of you have ever seen me tell this story before. This is the story of the worst show that I ever did. Some of you were like, what, you got a story about tonight already? Shut up! 12 years ago, I got to open for a hero of mine, comedy legend Joan Rivers, and I was very excited about it. I was a young comic, and I got the offer, and I was like, sure! And I got to open for Joan Rivers. It's a chance of a lifetime. I got to open for her in a casino in South Florida full of 3,000 old people. And Joan Rivers was awesome. She was there before the show. We did a sound check. It was a huge venue, so you have to do a sound check with the microphones. Nobody knew how to check a microphone like Joan Rivers. She was like, is this thing on? It should be off because I don't like this one. I want the jokes laid out on the stage. You're fired. You know what? I'm fired. The whole show is off. We're on in 5. Like, that's how you check a microphone. And she was very sweet backstage and everything. And then showtime came. And it was early because it was Florida. And the old people poured in from all over the state of Florida. And I'm not trying to be mean about how old they are, but for reference, you need to know the first several rows were like breathing apparatuses and wheelchairs. The next few rows after that are now deceased. They're no longer alive. They're very old people. And then it was at capacity. 3,000 people, so you cannot see to the back of the room. It's just darkness. It's like looking into history, and they just get older and older. So the show starts, and there's a band on stage. There's like a brass band, ready to see Joan Rivers. And Joan and I had worked out this thing. She thought this would be funny, and I did too, where she was gonna give me the old showbiz, like, hey, kick the sidekick. And so the showtime came. She's backstage. She's behind the curtain. And she's like, are you ready for an evening with Joan Rivers? The crowd musters their last breaths. They're like, she's like, well, great. But first, here's the opener. He's the best in his price range, I guess. James, get out there. And so she kicks me through the curtain. And I'm like, and they took it at face value. There were all these old tough guys in the room, and they were like, that's not Joan Rivers, where's Joan? I just lost $5,000 at Baccarat, where's Joan Rivers? They didn't give me a chance. I came out, and immediately there were all these tough guys that were just like, I know what, Joan, you're trying to throw a fastball past me, huh, pal? I know Joan Rivers. They were from the 1940s, so there was a... I'm not, look, you're not gonna get one over on me, pal. I know Joan Rivers. If only ever seen Joan Rivers, boy, oh boy. And it was enough of a disturbance just right off the top that I didn't get to say anything. And so I had to be like, hey, calm down, Popeye. She's gonna be out soon. And that was accurate. The guy looked exactly like Popeye. But then I didn't realize there were like 25 other people that looked exactly like Popeye in the room. And all of them were like, what are you talking about? You got something against the Merchant Marine? Hey, this guy doesn't like Popeye all of a sudden. Hey, what's wrong, pal? I'll show you what for. And I'm fucking dealing with this. I have these immediate fires going on throughout this giant room. And I'm going back and forth with him, And then, of course, I let it slip. I said, don't let the last moments of your lives be spent booing someone. That turned all the neutral parties in the crowd against me. Everybody immediately was on their feet. They were like, hey, get him out of here. Being from the 40s, their insults were hilarious. Their heckles were like, hey, yank him out of here like Truman did with MacArthur. He's a real Hooverville if you ask me. I'll teach him a lesson. And then, everybody hated me, and there was this old lady who came right up to the edge of the stage, and she gave me the finger, and she was like, you're not funny! The people running the show moved the spotlight onto her, and she got a standing ovation. And this is like 3 or 4 minutes into what is supposed to be like a much longer set. And at this point, it's just pandemonium. Joan Rivers senses from her dressing room that something is wrong. And I see her out of the corner of my eye being summoned early. And I'm like, fuck, I'm in trouble. And so she gets to the mic backstage and she stops the show. She's like, stop it, stop it, stop it, you idiots. Listen to him. And then she starts making up fake credentials for why they should listen to me. Because she realized we didn't do the intro, and then she didn't know anything about me. So she just makes up like fake biographical points. She was like, he's James, he tours the world. He's 23 years old. And he's David Letterman's best friend. She said that twice. He's David Letterman's best friend. And I'm just standing there. And I'm thinking, why would David Letterman be best friends with someone doing this badly at his chosen profession? But it was genius. It was perfect. She knew this and I did not. David Letterman was the youngest person that the crowd could respect in comedy. So they all started grumbling like, all right, I get it. It's David Letterman and the velveteen underpants and this punk. The avant-garde, all right, if Joan says I'll give him a chance. So she was a genius. She knew exactly the reference to get them to shut up. So then Joan goes, James, you're gonna leave the stage, the band's gonna bring you back out, and you are going to kill. And I'm like, that sounds accurate. So I walked off the stage, and then the band played me back on. And folks, if you've never been played back on stage after failing in front of 3,000 people, you might not know this, but if there's a brass band, the trombone can take on a mocking tone. Probably not gonna be good. So I get to the microphone, and they are totally stone cold silent. They're like, and I go, welp, this is probably as bad a time as any to tell you that I'm gay. And it was. That was all they heard from my prepared remarks. That's all they needed. The evidence was in, the jury reached a verdict. All the same old tough guys were on their feet, but a little bit meaner this time. They were like, oh, now we know something about him. He's a faggot, that's what he is. But being from the 1940s, you know, he's a real cobblestone jumper. He's like the Lopez, I hear. He's a lad with a long handshake. And then something insane happened. It being South Florida, there were old gay people there, and they were very confused. Because they weren't listening, they didn't understand, so they were like, the man on stage made all these people suddenly start saying faggot. And I'm like, no, that's not what happened. But then they were all arguing with each other in every row throughout the fucking theater. It was old homophobes and old gay people going like, shut up, no, you shut up. And the only thing they agreed on was that I should be executed as soon as possible. And it was Florida, so that was a distinct possibility. And I'm watching this, and I'm realizing, oh fuck, this is the New Deal coalition of Joan Rivers fans, old and gay, and it's ripping apart in front of me. She did the same calculus at the same time, and now Joan Rivers finally came out on stage. She came out and she said, stop, stop, stop the show. And she goes, James, this happens to the best of us. Just take your check and go home. So it was like Bugs Bunny. She came out, yay, and I went off and it was like, boo. And then the most magical thing happened of the entire evening. Joan Rivers, there was a whole musical number she dropped. She was like, I'm not gonna perform my set until I see which one of you came up here to the front of the stage and gave him the finger. Who was that? Who was it? I'm not gonna perform. And finally, the old lady, she was like, it was me, I did it, he wasn't funny. And she goes, so what if he wasn't funny? You watch Jay Leno every night, you stupid cunt. And she killed, she had a great show. I saw her after the show one more time, and the last time I saw Joan Rivers, the last thing she told me was like, showbiz, they're always assholes. And I learned a lot, and I will say, in my defense, as an opener, I did get the audience on their feet and full of energy before the headliner. And I think that's what you want in a show. So I am available. Thank Thanks, everybody. Good night.